guys, today we're going to talk about values and priorities. These are two really important key factors into determining whether or not we're experiencing happiness each day of our lives. So first I want to start by talking about values. I want you to take an assessment of yourself, just a small personal assessment. Get yourself a sheet of paper and a pen and sit down and write down maybe your top 10 values, things that you really value deep inside of you that you feel are very important for your happiness. And when, talking about values, values are kind of like your core principles. What are the things inside of you that you know are important for you and your true happiness? Okay, so make a list of your values. Okay, so before you can sit down and assess your values, let's talk a little bit about what values are. So what are they? Values are a set of rules that you make to determine between what you think is right and wrong, good and bad. So you come up with those values. It's your own belief system that you follow or that deep down you believe is something you should follow. And that's kind of what we govern our lives by and the choices and decisions that we make each day. So if deep down you have these core values, you have your core belief system of what you know to be right, that helps you determine what you know to be good and what you know to be bad. But then the way you're living your life speaks against those values, that's where you're going to find an issue with your happiness. So if you find yourself struggling each day to find joy and find positive things in your life, it could be because the choices that you're making are not in line with your core values. And some people that I talk to will say, I don't know, the things that I'm doing, yeah, some people call those bad choices, but I don't think there's anything wrong with them. Anyways, I'll talk to people that will say this. And then I find it interesting because we get talking about happiness and they tell me that they're not happy. So in a sense, they're trying to convince themselves that they're happy and everything's great, but the choices that they're making really are speaking a lot. The choices that they're making are showing that that's probably the area they need to focus on. That's probably why they're not experiencing happiness, because of those choices and because they're in conflict with their core values. So it's funny, some people really will be in denial for quite a while that the choices that they're making are not in line with what they believe on the inside. Instead, they'll try to justify and say, no, those are my values. I'm fine, everything's great. You might think what I'm doing is wrong, but that's you, and this is my life. I'm happy with the way I'm living it. But they're having to justify and convince themselves because really they're not happy. They're not happy, and they're just trying to make sense of it. So my advice to any of you out there who are experiencing this right now, or you know someone in your life who's in conflict with themselves and their values, or they're just trying to figure out why they're not happy, my advice to you is to really sit down and take a personal assessment. Really go deep here. If you need to have some quiet time, if you need to pray, if you need to meditate, whatever you need to do, really have some one-on-one time with your Heavenly Father. If you don't have belief in a higher power than you, then I would start with your spirit. Talk to yourself and really go deep, really think, reflect. Think about, what are my values? What were they 10 years ago? Have I changed? Why did I change my values? Or have my values stayed the same, but I've kind of veered off on a different path? Why am I doing that? Is that bringing me happiness? Is this what I really want to be doing? And most likely, I'm telling you, the answer is going to be no every time. This is not the path that I want to be going down, and that's why I'm not happy. Now, as you go through each of those values in order of what you have written down, ask yourself, is this a value that I'm living every day? Is this a value that I'm living maybe for 50% of my life? Or maybe I apply this value 20% throughout my life. Okay, so what I want to say about that next is our spirits inside, we have these physical bodies that house these beautiful, amazing, glorious spirits. And our spirits know all truth. They know everything. You can't lie to your spirit. You can't fool your spirit. They remember everything from pre-earth life, everything now, and they know what's going to happen in the future. They were there for those conversations in the pre-earth life. They know what you have planned. They know your agency, what you're going to choose. They know all that. And so your spirit truly knows why you're here, what you're supposed to be doing, and what truly is going to make you happy. So when you start making choices and decisions that are the opposite of what your spirit wants to be doing and what your spirit knows is right and true, your spirit's going to be at this internal conflict. You're going to have this internal struggle within between your physical brain, your physical mind, your mortal man, and your spirit. And there's going to be this internal struggle going on, and that I can tell you 100% of the time when you're not happy, it's because you have that internal struggle going on. It's your physical mind trying to override your spiritual mind, and your spiritual mind isn't gonna let that physical mind win. It knows the truth, and it's not going to give up. And so as long as this internal conflict is going on, you're going to feel unhappy. Now, when you do feel happy, because, I always like to have hope. I like to say, yes, you are going to be happy. It's going to come. If you're not happy now, you'll get there. When that day comes and you start feeling pure bliss and pure happiness daily in your life, not just here and there, but daily in your life, it's because your spirit won the battle. Your spirit knows that the choices you're making are in line with what you're supposed to be doing, why you're here, and where you're going. And so that is the truth of how to experience pure happiness each day, how to achieve that awesome happiness that everybody wants. That is the key right there, is making sure your choices are lined up with your core values and really understanding, knowing, and believing what those core values truly are without trying to fool yourself and lie to your spirit. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is priorities. So way back in the day, when I was in college, I had a class I was taking in my family studies program, and we had this awesome opportunity to have this marriage therapist come in and speak to us. And what he taught me that day has stuck with me for the rest of my life. And I use this teaching a lot in my workshops, especially when I talk about relationships and when I do workshops with my How to Date Your Spouse book. This is something I really like to pull from. Okay, so he said within marriages, as a marriage counselor, he was finding this issue a lot. But I think it applies to everyone, so you don't have to be in a marriage to use this. Okay, so he said to sit down and write down your top 5 priorities. What are the top 5 things that are most important to you? It could range from work, God, religion, going to church, family, free time, vacations, whatever it is. Write down the top 5 things that you feel are most important, that you couldn't live without, that you just have to have in your day. Okay, so write those down. In fact, I want you to do this right now. So before I tell you where we're going with this, it'll ruin it if you listen to everything first. Pause the video right here. I'm going to give you a minute just to pause the video, write down your top 5 priorities, and then come back and I will tell you where to go from there. Okay, so you're back now. You've written down your top 5 priorities. Okay, now you're going to number your paper 1 to 5. Just make a second column and number it 1 to 5. And now I want you to write down the top 5 ways you spend your time. So you're going to take those 5 priorities and you're going to put them in order of how you're spending your time. So maybe employment was number 5, but you find that you spend most of your time and energy working. So employment would actually go to number 1. Maybe prayer, communicating with the Lord, was something you had listed as your number 1 priority. But when you think about it and you look at your day and you think, man, I only pray at night before I go to bed. Sometimes I forget. There are days when I don't even pray. So that would mean that prayer actually falls at number 5 maybe it comes last in your second column, showing that that's actually the least place where you spend your time. So do you see what it is we're trying to do here? We're trying to see what's most important in your life, but where you're actually putting your time. Now, when you compare the two columns, you're going to see something interesting, especially if you're somebody who isn't happy, if you're having a lot of issues in your life. If you're seeing that the things that are most important to you are out of whack and they're out of order on your second column, then that tells you you've got some changes to make. You've got to get your priorities lined up to what's most important to you in your life. When you take the time to do it, when you actually rearrange and realign your priorities so that the way you're spending your time matches up to what's important to you, that's when you're going to feel true happiness. You're going to feel like you're doing the right things and you're spending your time the right way and you're not wasting your time. It's spent on things that are important to you and you're going to be happy. And the truth is, that's what happy people will tell you. That's what they do. That's what they do. They're happy because the things that are important to them, they're putting their time into those areas. So I guess I can personally testify to that, to the truth of that in my life. God is the number one most important priority in my life. And I'd have to say I dedicate a lot of my time to Him. I spend a lot of time getting to know Him better, talking to Him, serving Him. Gosh, I'd say, if not, all the choices I make in my life each day have to do with Him. Is it something that's pleasing to the Lord? Am I aligning my will with His will? And these are things I think about all day, and I try to do them as best as I can, and I really believe that that's why I'm so happy. So I hope that this video gives you a chance not to feel bad, not to beat yourself up, but just to open up your eyes to the possibilities, just to see some places in your life where you can make some changes. And know that sometimes when we feel guilty, don't look at the guilt as a bad thing. Look at it as a loving thing. Somebody out there is trying to show you a better way. And deep down, your spirit knows that there is a better way. And that's why you feel the guilt. All it is that internal conflict with your spirit and your brain. So we want to get our physical mind and our spiritual mind aligned together. We want to have them on the same page, but you also want to align it with God. And when you can bring all those areas into alignment and they're one, that's when you're going to experience amazing happiness. I'm telling you, life will never be the same. Everything in your life will change for the better. So get started. I hope this gave you some motivation today and some inspiration to feel the need to make some changes in your life. And like I said, don't overwhelm yourself. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel bad. Just go ahead and just get started. Just start making some changes now. Start with little things, baby steps. You'll get there. I know you will. Thanks so much for joining me today about this topic. I really hope it's inspired you. For more tips on how to be happy, you can check out my website at yourhappylady.com. You can also check out my YouTube channel under Happy Marriages. And remember, that's all one word. It was so much fun talking with you today. I'd love to hear about your experiences with changing your priorities and assessing your values. Get back to me and share what your experiences with me. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.